my gosh, you guys. This week I have had an epiphany. I have had a mental breakdown. I have had just a rough week because I think I have ADHD. If you guys are new here, hi, hello. My name is Gabby Giselle. I'm your host, and this is the Gabby Hour. And today's episode, I'm just going to tell you a little fun story, okay? About my entire breakdown this week over whether or not I have ADHD. Now, some of you may be asking, Gabby, did you go to a doctor? No. Gabby, did you see a psychologist? No. Did you get tested for ADHD? No. All of these are no's, okay? And so today, it's just going to be me being worried about myself, okay? Because not that there's anything wrong with ADHD. It just almost feels like, oh, like that's what it is. And I want to tell you guys why I think I have ADHD. We can thank my boyfriend, okay? Hey, yeah, I already called him to tell him that he freaked me out. And now I'm having an existential crisis. Because the other day, well, just a quick life update really quick before we even get into the episode. Honestly, it's been kind of a shit week. Just been kind of a shit week. No real reason other than, well, a couple real reasons. Number one, I'm having a breakdown as to whether or not I have ADHD. So there's that. And then there's also the simple fact that this past Sunday, I believe, was a Sunday? Yeah. This past Sunday, my childhood dog passed away, and it was really, really sad. And at first, like, honestly, I just didn't really react. I just kind of was like, oh, okay, well, this is happening. And it almost didn't really feel real at first because I've had her since I was like 7. And her name is Wether. I'm going to put a picture of her on the screen so you guys can see her. I'll put a picture of her mom as well, who passed away a couple years ago. But I've had these dogs. I've had Chispita, which means sparkle in Spanish, and Wether, which means white girl in Spanish, because she's all white. But I had Chispita. We got her when I was like 4, maybe 3. I'm thinking 4. And she passed away like right before my 20th birthday. And I remember being really, really sad when she passed because she was like my little buddy, you know, like she always kind of loved cuddling with me and hanging out with me. And we were really, really close growing up. And her loss hit me like instantly because I lived at my mom's house when it happened and I watched her die, and it was very, very sad. But this time around, when I passed away with my sister who lives at my mom's house, and I don't live there, so I didn't really know that she was sick, and she wasn't really sick. She was just old. My sister thinks that maybe something bit her. You know, we have frogs out here that are poisonous, so maybe she got into one of those. But I remember when Chispa died, my first dog, she, you know, was just like deteriorating slowly because she had gotten attacked by a dog. And she'd gotten attacked by a pit bull, I believe. The pit bull was my sister's roommate's dog, and my sister was watching my dog while I moved to California. And so while they were at work, she came home and there was like blood all over the walls. It was like very, very sad. But she had gotten a puncture wound on her head, and my sister took her to the emergency room, or like the emergency vet or whatever. And after that, she really wasn't the same. So that kind of was really hard because it was almost like we watched her deteriorate. And now we've watched her deteriorate over the years. But honestly, after my first dog passed away, my parents started traveling and they took Wena everywhere with them. Like, she was a little adventure dog. She has seen more national parks than I have, okay? She has seen the mountains. Like, my parents just took her with them, and this kind of almost like breathed new life into her. She kind of went from being like kind of sad, obviously not having her mom anymore, to like super lively and whatnot. My parents were taking such good care of her. They were like feeding her human food and just all of that, right? And then after Hurricane Ian, my parents came back to Florida and they kind of just left her here. My sister moved into their house and she lived there with them, or with my sister. And so ever since then, again, she's kind of like deteriorated. My brother also lives there and he has like a big dog who stresses her out. And I feel like that was also really stressful for her. And, you know, she's just old. And every time I'd see her, I'd be like, oh, my little old lady. And yeah, so unfortunately, she's passed away. But at least she's with her mom. And like that makes me happy. We did bury her in the backyard, which was really, really sad and really hard to do. And my sister was really, really distraught because, like, obviously for the last couple of years, she's been the one looking after her. And yeah, that was just kind of a really rough thing to happen recently. But I'm okay. I think it's just like sad because she's always like the one that greets me at my mom's house, and like there's not going to be any more barking and yapping. So I think like that's really sad that I don't have like the last piece of my childhood anymore. But I think, you know, hopefully she's happy and she's with her mom wherever. So anyways, this time of year is also, I believe, like the anniversary of my grandmother's passing. She passed away like over 10 years ago now. And my mom sent me this video of my grandma talking to me in the hospital. And I'm like 13 or 14 in the video. And I thought it was really cute. And I told my mom, I was like, oh, like I kind of forgot what she sounded like, because when my grandma was alive, I didn't get to see her much because we lived in Florida and she really only visited California where all my other aunts are. So we didn't really get to see her very often. Hearing her voice again was kind of like, oh my God, I almost forgot her voice, you know? And so it was really nice to see that. And so I sent it to Jake. And I was like, babe, look, you know, this is my grandma talking to me like right before she passed, like, you know, I'm like 14 or something in the video. And I sent it to him and he watched it. And then he says, verbatim, I think you have ADHD. And I was like, what a peculiar way to respond to a video of my grandmother in the hospital talking to me. But hey, okay. And now this isn't the first time that Jake has ever said something like this to me. It's honestly not at all the first time. He's told me that he thinks that I have ADHD many a time. Okay. And unfortunately, this time, you know, normally I just kind of brush it off, but this time I was astounded. I was worried. So I started doing research about ADHD. What does it mean? What does it look like in women? Because I've heard that ADHD in women is so different from ADHD in men. And so I was doing research. I was watching YouTube videos. I was on Reddit. I was on Google. And I was really, really astounded. I was shaking in my boots, Miss Girl, because I'm reading all these things and I'm like, holy crap, I think I have ADHD. And as a kid, my mom would get told a lot that my brother had ADHD and that she should put him on medication and this, that, and the other. My mom used to be super against it, almost like, hey, you know, all kids are energetic, you know, let's wait a couple years. And then we just never addressed it, okay? And for me, I never thought I had ADHD because I was a good student. I focused in class. I was really, really good at school. I didn't struggle to pay attention. I didn't struggle to sit still. But after Jake told me that, and I'm doing all this research, I watched this video back. And I'm watching myself. It's kind of like one of those chairs that curls around like this at the legs, and then it has like the seat. So it bounces. And I'm sitting there bouncing in this chair. And I'm sitting there bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. And then I'm like stretching. And then I'm messing with my hair. And I'm watching myself. And I'm like, oh my God, I think I have ADHD. And I was like, okay, let's keep doing some more research. So I did. So today we're going to be talking about ADHD. And we're going to be trying to figure out whether or not I have it due to all these listed symptoms and information that I found on the internet. Okay. Now, the intention today is not to diagnose myself or to diagnose other people. I just want to speculate. Okay. I just want to bring it to the attention of you guys. Maybe you guys have struggled with some of these things and you can't figure out why and you feel really insecure about it and you're looking for maybe a solution, or maybe you didn't realize, like me. And I'm really sorry if I send you down a spiral, but maybe go to your doctor because I'm seriously debating it. Because after all of this information that I've found, I think I need to go see a doctor. Because I'm just sitting here watching TED Talks after YouTube video and reading article after article. And I'm sitting there coming to the realization that, oh my gosh, I think I have ADHD. I think. Emphasis on the think, because I'm not going to self-diagnose, but I wouldn't be surprised. And honestly, I don't think that I'm going to go to the doctor about it anyways, because I don't see it as a weakness. It's just almost interesting to learn this about myself at the ripe age of 23. You know, I'm almost a quarter through my life and I am just now realizing this. So come along with me. I also want to say hi to all my new people. Make sure you make sure you're subscribed, turn on your notification bells. We upload new episodes of the Gappy Hour every single Monday. So I hope to see you guys there. But let's get into it. Okay, so what is ADHD? What does that stand for? Okay, ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Now, from what I have accumulated information-wise on the internet, this is kind of not a great way to explain ADHD because it doesn't always look like attention disorder, and it also doesn't always look like hyperactivity disorder, especially in women, okay? And according to Google, ADHD is a chronic condition including attention difficulty, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. ADHD often begins in childhood and can persist into adulthood and may contribute to low self-esteem, troubled relationships, and difficulty at school or work. Symptoms include limited attention and hyperactivity. Treatments include medication and talk therapy. Okay. I watched a TED Talk of this woman speaking about finding out that she has ADHD after she's given birth to her son. Okay. And she was talking about how her ADHD she's learning is different from that. And she brought up this article, I believe, from somebody who was studying ADHD who wrote a book about it. And I think it's called ADHD 2.0. And they explained it almost in a way that's more broad than that, because I think ADHD is really just a blanket term for all these different things that you could have going on in your brain. And she was explaining how in her head, ADHD isn't necessarily the inability to focus. It isn't necessarily the inability to sit still physically, but it's almost this mental carousel of just constant thoughts and ideas and wants and needs and thinking and overthinking and, stimulation, and just constantly your brain is running to the point where she was having trouble sleeping. She was having low self-esteem, self-doubt, depression, anxiety, struggling with all of these different things that stem from her ADHD. And I was thinking, for me, I just always chalk it up as to I'm a business owner, so I constantly have a million things running in my head at all times. I'm a business owner, I'm a girlfriend, I'm a cat mom, I'm a dog mom, I'm a content creator, and I'm a podcaster, and all these different things. And so that was kind of why I explained all of these constant, thoughts and running of my brain is just, I just chalk it up to, I'm busy. I'm a business owner. I'm a content creator. I've got a million things to do today. And hearing her say that is exactly what a woman with ADHD who's masking looks like, I was about to damn lose my mind. I feel like a lot of the time, it's not that I have trouble focusing, it's that I have so many things that I want to give my attention to that it overwhelms me. I get burnt out and I give up. And it happens to me at least once a week. where I take the day and I'm like, you know what? I just literally can't. There's too many things to do. I have to clean my house. I have to film the podcast. I have to edit the podcast. I have to edit my YouTube video. I have to film my YouTube video. I have to read this book. I have to listen to this. I have to go to work. I have to go to the gym. I have to cook. I have to just all of these different tasks in the day that I'm like, okay, so then I have to do this and then I have to do that. And then I'm not going to have enough time. And then I'm not going to get enough sleep. And then if I do this and then I just don't do anything. And then I don't do anything for 2 days and then 3 days. And then all in the same 3 days of the week, I'm trying to get everything done. And then I don't get certain things done. And then I beat myself up about them. And then I think maybe I'm just not meant for that thing. Like this past week. Okay. Last week, I think I might have talked about on the last episode, but I've been playing around with different video editors for YouTube. I've been playing around with Descript, canceled that, started playing around with Premiere Pro, got really frustrated, canceled that. Then I started playing around with Final Cut Pro, and I was just so exhausted of trying to figure it out that I almost was like, what if I miss a week? And I haven't missed a single podcast or upload on my vlog channel in 2.5 months. So for the last 10 weeks, I've uploaded twice on YouTube for the last 10 weeks. And it is a lot of work. And so I didn't get to film my podcast episode last week until Thursday, maybe Friday. And then I didn't do any editing or any uploading like I said I was going to do on Friday. And then Saturday I kind of just sat around and did all these, I watched the new Osama bin Laden, I think it's called Manhunt on Netflix. Oh, can we just take a little side? Park it. We're going to take a little side quest. Oh my God. I have never felt in my entire life more patriotic and more America, okay, than I did watching that docuseries. When I tell you, my birthday is September 6th. I almost said September 11th. Yeah, it's my birthday. My birthday is September 6th, 2001. So technically I was born before 9/11, okay? And I know a lot of older people are going to be watching this. They're going to be like, what? Okay, I know. Just bear with me, okay? Every year for 9/11, it's always around my birthday, obviously. And so I have seen so many TV programs, movies, documentaries about 9/11, but I have never really done a lot of deep dive or understood the side of 9/11 that includes Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, or Al-Qaeda, however you want to say it. I don't really know how it's pronounced, so I'm just going to say both. But I'm going to say Al-Qaeda because that's how they said it in the documentary, and that's how I'm going to refer to it, okay? I have never felt more patriotic in my damn life, okay? Because learning about the CIA agents that were behind this, getting to see the Navy SEAL who shot Osama bin Laden. Yup. Okay? He pew-pewed Osama bin Laden, Ms. Girl. What? Their helicopter went down in the front yard of this house, this freaking, what is the word? Not a concubine. That is not the right word. I don't know, this little house, okay, that Osama bin Laden was staying in. And they somehow still figured it out, Ms. Girl, plan changed. And just like hearing all of the ways that they trained for it in just a couple of weeks, I think, was insane. Like, hey, we know the general outline of the outside of the house. We are going to change the way that this house looks on set. Almost like they were theater kids, Miss Girl. They were reading Macbeth, okay? They were taking down the set, putting it back up, switching it around, changing it around, practicing for all different situations, except for the helicopter going down. And the fact that happened and they didn't know what the inside was going to look like, and they still got him. I have never wanted to go America more badly in my life, okay? The part where they talk about Obama coming into office and him taking over this sort of thing and them coming to him and being like, hey, we think we have Osama. We think we know where he is. And Obama said, go get him. That part, I was like, that's my boy. That's my boy right there. Because I was absolutely astounded. Okay. I was just so excited. Number one, I love Obama. Okay. Do I love everything that he's ever done? No. I don't praise politicians. Not around here, Miss Girl. But I miss him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I miss him. And then there was clips of like Obama and Bush when Obama was going into office and Bush kind of like welcoming him into the White House. And I was like, you remember when politicians acted like fucking classy people? You remember when politicians had human decency and common sense? Yeah, I do too. And there was like a video of Congress sitting on the floor or whatever, and they were listening to Bush talk about whatever, and obviously having to do with this terrorist group. And everybody in Congress is just like sat, polite, listening, giving him the time of day. Girl, with Miss Marjorie Taylor Greene, that is nowhere to be found, okay? Miss Girl is out here looking like the lady from Hunger Games, heckling. Y'all remember that shit? Heckling. Disgusting. These are elected officials, ladies and gentlemen. Like, with Miss Marjorie Taylor Greene, we literally cannot, okay? Because Congress out here acting like it's fucking an episode of Bad Girls Club. Y'all acting like it's Jersey Shore when they go to Italy. Out here doing Ronnie activities, okay? Fucking acting like it's Love Island season 6 and Rob just picked the bombshell over Leah. Yeah. Oh, I am so locked into the tea right now about Love Island. Oh, we're going to switch gears again. I promise we're going to come back to the ADHD thing. But the public finding Austin's reposts of all these like MAGA, like conspiracy theory, like super racist, homophobic posts that he's reposting and liking. Oh, he was read for filth. Okay. The public said, oh, you think you're going to stay more than a week? No, you're actually not. Yulissa proudly saying the N-word on a podcast with a Trump hat. She's a Cuban from Miami. Did we expect any better? I was having this conversation today that Cubans are like the redneck white trash for white people, but of Hispanic people. Okay? Like, they are the ones that all Hispanics can agree can't stand them. Now, not all Cubans. I have some Cuban girly friends, and I'm sure I've got some Cuban viewers who are decent people. Good, nice, kind people. But I'm going to go ahead and say 99% of Cubans, entitled, delusional, and disrespectful. I'm going to just say that right there. And I have evidence, okay? Because every Chipotle in my area employs a slew of Cuban women. And they are always so disrespectful, so rude. First of all, I want to know why the employees at Chipotle are acting like they pay for the chicken themselves. Ms. Girl, why are we acting like you pay for the chicken that you are putting in my bowl? Number one, you're not. Hey, you're not. And they be just you ask them for chicken and they're giving you like maybe 2 ounces of chicken. They're like, there you go. The other day I went there and it was literally only 3 people on the actual hot bar. Okay. One of them clearly knew, the other one in training. And then the other one was the girl who's always there. Guess what? She's Cuban. Yeah, she's Cuban. And she's so rude. She's so rude. She terrifies every single trainee because I've seen her training other people before because this Chipotle is right by my house. So I've been there a couple of times since we moved here. Okay. I'm not going back again because this shit pissed me off. I asked her for only 1 scoop of rice. She put 2. Okay. Whatever. She's new. Then I was like, let me talk to her in Spanish just to make this easier because I'm Hispanic. I know Spanish. If I see a Hispanic person working at a restaurant, I'm not going to make their life harder. I'm not going to risk losing my order or getting it wrong, okay? I'm just going to talk in Spanish to you because number 1, it makes your job easier. And number 2, it makes my life better because you're going to do my bowl the right way, as I thought. Turns out I thought wrong, okay? Because then I said, can I get barbacoa? So she puts barbacoa on my bowl. Again, maybe an ounce, maybe 2, bordering on like 1.5 ounces of fucking barbacoa. And then I was like, actually, can you add chicken to that too? Like, I wanted both. I don't think that this is a hard concept to understand. She says, yeah, another 1 ounce of chicken. Okay, cool, great. I hate my life, but thanks. And then I said, can you give me queso on the side? I said, me das el queso a un lado, which means on the side. And she said, on the side? And I said, yes. And then she raises it to my bowl. And then I said, on the side. And she said, on the side? And I said, yes. And then she goes to pour it in my bowl. I said, on the side. In Spanish. I'm not saying anything in English. And she goes, on the side? And I was just like, yes. Like, I don't know what else. Like, why is this confusing you? Why are you not grabbing a to-go cup? Okay? And then before I could say, because then I was like, oh, maybe I should tell her to put it in the little cup. Before I could say, put it like en un vasito, uno de esos, like that's right in front of me, she goes ahead and she puts queso on the side of my bowl. Hey, did she technically get it wrong? No. But should she have known better? Yes. 100% yes. 100% yes. Why would I want my queso like on the corner of my bowl? Why wouldn't I want it? Don't you think if I say on the side, I mean on the literal side, like in a cup? Yeah. Anyways, so then after I had to deal with her, okay, not her fault. She just, maybe it's her first week working, okay? Then I get handed over to this other lady who's the Cuban lady who always works there. Okay, she's always training somebody. She's the one training the girl who's on the topping aisle, okay? Or on the topping side. And before she hands my bowl off, she goes, the girl puts like a little thing on the side of my bowl. It's like a red marker, which basically means like double or whatever. And she was like, what'd you put in there? And she's like, barbacoa. And then she's like, no, what else? And she's like, chicken. And she's like, no, what else? Instead of like just telling her, you're sitting there like being condescending as hell, being like, what else? And what else? Clearly, she doesn't know what else. I don't know what you're sitting here trying to get her to figure. She's not going to figure it out. So then she's like, no, what else? And she's like, oh, queso. And she's like, oh, okay, good. And she's looking at it. And I go, I wanted it on the side. In Spanish. Again, I'm speaking Spanish. I'm not speaking English. They should understand me perfectly well. I'm making your job easier. Okay? And she goes, okay, what do you want on it? And I was like, I want my fucking queso on the side. And then I just go about my day. And I tell her, I said, can I have queso on the side? In Spanish, again. And then I said, in the little cup. And they looked at me like judging me for getting queso twice. Baby, I didn't want it on my fucking bowl. And it's not like you can scoop it out, which I wouldn't put it past them for doing that because, again, they're acting like they themselves are paying for the fucking queso and the chicken that's going in my bowl every time they serve me, okay? And then they were like, I go to cash out. It's a different girl. And she says, do you want chips for that? I go, yes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And she was the only person who seemed like nice and competent. But hey, guess what? She tells me on my toes, she goes, $27.70 something. Hold on now, Miss Girl. Hold on. What am I paying $27 for? But at this point, I had just gone back from the gym. I'm shaking. I'm aching. I'm pissed off. I'm annoyed. I don't want to talk to these girls anymore. I want to get the fuck out of here. Okay? Because y'all pissed me off. Okay? I leave. Tell me why I get home, or I don't even get home. I get in my car. Okay? I'm leaving. I'm pulling out to go to my house. Mind you, my house is like a 3-minute drive from Chipotle. I'm pulling out, going through the neighborhood, right? I open my bag to grab a chip out of the chip bag. What's in there? A cup. Guess what? A large cup. Yep. They charged me for a drink that I didn't ask for. She never said, do you want a drink? That never happened. Okay? She asked me if I wanted chips. And I said, yes. And then somehow, without me noticing, she decided to charge me and put a cup in my bag. What? Why is there a cup? Why am I didn't even care. I just went home. I could have turned around. It wouldn't have taken that much energy, but man, was I so over their shit. So then I go home and I eat my fucking bowl and it tastes like shit. Because of course, it tastes like shit. Chicken's dry, barbacoa is dry, everything tastes like shit. Chipotle sucks. And I'm boycotting them. I'm never going back. Sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. They're like a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Fuck Chipotle. And I'll say that with my chest. And honestly, the only reason why it pisses me off is because Chipotle used to hit so good, especially after the gym. Like, you would get enough rice, enough beans, enough protein, all your vegetables as a topping. And it would be so satiating and so filling. Now, I'm paying $27 fucking dollars for a bowl that you did wrong. I'm paying extra, which I didn't get extra. And then I'm paying for shit that I didn't order. And I'm sitting there talking to you in your fucking language, in our fucking language. And as far as I know, you're understanding me. Clearly, you're not. Clearly, they don't speak Spanish. They speak something else. Because I was speaking fluent Spanish to these Cuban women. And they were just such assholes, though, about it. Like, especially the one girl who was doing the training. Again, she's always there. She's always a bitch. I don't know if she's the manager, but I think she is. Because she's the worst. She's the worst. And that is the only kind of employee who could act like that is like that shift employee, like that shift lead employee or the manager who like thinks that they're the fucking owner. Okay. And they're just licking the rim of the owner's butthole. Okay. Just like it's their job. Okay. Hate them. I've worked with people like that before when I worked at jobs before. Hate those people. They're the worst kind of people. They tell on you for everything. They're condescending. They're rude. They're impatient with you when you're new. And it's so annoying. It's like, baby, your job is not that serious. Anyways, back to my original topic of conversation. My bad for going on a tangent about Chipotle and the new Osama bin Laden docuseries on Netflix. But hey, you should definitely go watch that. And you should definitely never eat a Chipotle again because they suck. They really suck. Now that I'm doing research, I'm sitting there doing research about like, what is ADHD? What does it look like? Right? I'm like looking at symptoms and all these different things. And I'm like, no, like maybe I'm just in my head, you know, one of those things where you kind of just convince yourself, like when you're sick and you Google your symptoms and then you get like a WebMD of like, hey, you have like lung cancer or a tumor or some disease or malaria and you're just freaking out. Yeah, that's what I thought maybe I was experiencing. So I'm like, okay, let me calm down and let me really just think about this for a second. And as I'm sitting there thinking, my leg, okay, I'm sitting down in a chair, like on a stool, and my leg is bouncing. And I'm like, I was like, oh, fuck. And then I remember in middle school, we used to play this game called Monsters and Peasants, which basically there was people who were monsters. They were assigned by the teacher. And then there were people who were peasants. And then there was like an FBI agent. There was like different things. And you had to figure out who the monsters were and vote them out before they overpowered you, right? And so we would play this game. And I remember you had to like lie. And one time I was lying, but I was sitting there and my foot was tapping up and down. And somebody was like, oh, her foot is bouncing. Clearly she's nervous. And my theater teacher, if you guys remember Mr. Green, or did I call him Mr. Green or Mr. Brown? No, Mr. Green. Mr. Green was like, no, she does that all the time. She drinks too much coffee because I used to go to school with coffee. And I was like, oh my God, this has been a problem for a very long time. And I was like, maybe it's just because I had caffeine today. At that point in time, I hadn't had any caffeine yet. And my leg is just bouncing up and down, bouncing up and down. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I do have ADHD. So then I, again, started to do more research. I watched the video of the woman talking about her ADHD. So then I was like, okay, let me look up what does ADHD look like in women. And this is what came up. Now, I did learn that there's two different kinds of ADHD, or I think that there's three, and it's like inattentive, attentive, and then like a combination of both. And this one says ADHD in women often manifests as inattentive symptoms, which can be more subtle and easily overlooked compared to the more outwardly visible symptoms seen in men. Common signs include difficulty focusing, forgetfulness, disorganization, and emotional dysregulation, which can sometimes be mistaken for anxiety or depression. Hyperactivity and impulsivity can also be present, but may look different, such as excessive talking or difficulty sitting still. Well, I have all of those things. I have the anxiety, the depression, the forgetfulness, the disorganization, the emotional dysregulation, difficulty focusing, excess talking, and difficulty sitting still. I have all of those things. I don't have difficulty sitting still as much as I used to because I'm like a big reader, and so I can sit and read for a long time, but I get bored or I get uncomfortable and then I have to switch positions, but I won't move from the same spot, if that makes sense. Like after reading on my butt for an hour, I'll like turn around and lay on my stomach and read, or I'll try and like lean off to the side so that way my butt isn't being squished. Especially, I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but if you used to be like no butt and then you built one in the gym. Like I've built a little booty in the gym, okay? And it hurts to sit on my butt for extended periods of time. Like it genuinely hurts. And so I will like move around, but I will stay in the same spot. I won't like need to get up and like rock around until it's been a very long time, which I feel like is normal. Okay. I do lose things pretty easily. I wouldn't say I'm disorganized, but I'm organized in my own sort of way, which is a point that my friend Felicia brought up. And she was like, okay, but I've talked to a psychologist about this, and they said that it's just the way that I am organized, because she does the same thing that I do, where everything's kind of like a jumbled mess, but I know where everything is. Like if I'm looking at my bookshelves right now, they're kind of a jumbled mess, but I know where everything is because I put it there. Do you know what I'm saying? And I memorized where I put it. And so like right now I'm staring at my cat's nail clippers, and they're on the ground behind my couch, right? And in a week, I know that, let's say, well, probably not in a week because I clean at least like 2 or 3 times a week. But like, let's say the next time I'm thinking about these clippers, I'm like, oh yeah, I saw them behind the couch on the floor. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to look, and they're going to be tucked underneath the couch where the cats like push them under, right? And that is kind of how I stay organized. And one time, a long time ago, I read something that said that people who are like that have higher IQs because it takes a lot more effort and energy to kind of memorize where things are. And that happens a lot with women, because women in, the early days of life were hunters and were gatherers. And so they had to remember where all of the berries were. They had to remember which berries were poisonous, which ones were good, things like that. And so I've heard that sort of disorganized, organized system is really common in women, and that it means that you have a higher IQ typically. So I don't really know. Again, this episode is just kind of speculation, and it's also really informative because I didn't really know any of these things. So I'm learning. Okay. I'm learning. And then, so after I learned kind of what it is, what it looks like in women, I learned the term masking. And I've heard that before, sort of with people who have autism. I have some friends who have autism. I have some friends with high functioning autism, and they'll, say things like, oh, it's just me masking, LOL, right? Like they'll make jokes about masking. And I kind of figured what it means is kind of like you pretend like you're totally normal when you're clearly not, or that your brain is functioning normal when it's not. And I've heard that also with depression, because I used to kind of do the same thing. So I've heard that term before, but I wanted to know what it looks like with ADHD. So this says, the conscious or unconscious strategies used to conceal ADHD symptoms and appear neurotypical in social situations. This is what masking is. This can include overcompensating for difficulties with attention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity, or mimicking behaviors of those without ADHD. Women with ADHD may mask due to social expectations and pressures to conform, leading to a significant toll on their well-being. This was the part that I was like, oh, this makes so much sense, right? Because sometimes when I'm sitting and I'm trying to work in a public space or even in a classroom, I used to get really distracted, and I used to I'd be doing my homework and I'd finish really early, and then I'd kind of be looking around at all my friends, and I'd be waiting for them to look up at me. And then I'd be like noticing what the teacher's doing. And then I would be noticing that there's a pencil sharpener in the back and that I might need to sharpen my pencil. And then I'm thinking about my homework for the next class. And then I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch. And I remember kind of sitting around class and being like, why is nobody else looking up from their papers? Like, I know that I finished fast, but I feel like a lot of these kids would still look up, and a lot of kids weren't. And so then I just wouldn't say anything or wouldn't do anything, even though I felt like talking to my friends. Or sometimes I'll notice things that other people won't notice. Like my boyfriend won't notice certain things. I'll be like, oh, did you see so-and-so was there? And he's like, oh no, I didn't see them. And I'm like, yeah, they were in the corner and like blah, blah, blah. Especially if it's like tea. When I see somebody and it's tea, I'm like, but I don't say anything because I know my boyfriend. If I'm like, oh my God, so-and-so's in the corner, he's going to be like, who? Like, I just know him. So I don't tell him any of that stuff. I just give up and I tell him later. But I feel like I do that a lot. So then I saw examples of ADHD masking in women. So it says overcompensating Working excessively to meet deadlines or keep up with others, potentially leading to burnout. That happens to me a lot. Mimicking behaviors, pretending to listen during conversations, smiling and nodding even when not following along, or excessively organizing to create a sense of control. That is something that sometimes happens to me when I'm feeling like, God, like if I was just organized. Or sometimes I get into planner phases of my life where all I want to do is use my planner. And so I'll fall into these phases where I'm like planning and planning and planning and planning, and then I don't use it after like 3 days of using it. And just little things like that I notice that I do sometimes. So yeah, I feel like sometimes I do that where I get into super organizational modes and then I don't use the organization that I set ahead of time for myself. It also says that masking can look like avoiding situations. So avoiding social gatherings or situations where ADHD symptoms might be more noticeable. I feel like since I don't think or in the past, I haven't thought that I have ADHD. That's not really why I avoid social situations. I avoid social situations because I feel like sometimes I can't control when things come out of my mouth. And I'm trying to get better at it as I get older because it does get like really irritating. And then sometimes it causes like rift between people who don't really know me that well. Like, honestly, I don't care about people who aren't my friends, but I never want to like actually hurt my friends' feelings, which is never my intention. But sometimes I feel like people take me a little bit too literally. And so sometimes I avoid social situations for that. I also avoid them because it's always like loud somewhere or it's really just kind of annoying, and like I don't know. I think I just low-key might have autism. Jake also said that the other day. He was like, when I called him to be like, babe, you have me freaking out if I have ADHD. He was like, yeah, well, it might be that, a little bit of tism, whatever. And so just shit like that, I feel like it's just my social awkwardness, more of like social anxiety, not really having to do with ADHD. But again, I don't know. It says using external aids, relatively relying on checklists, alarms, and other external tools to manage daily tasks. I do this sometimes, but again, I don't use them. Like I'll forget about them or I'll snooze and then I won't pay attention to it. And then it says suppression of emotions, avoiding expressing strong emotions or impulses to fit in. This is something that I've done my whole life because I feel like, especially where I react to things pretty viscerally, and I am not afraid, like I said, to share my opinion. And sometimes it gets me into some trouble. So I try to not do that as much, but kind of work through the emotions a little bit first before I say anything. And yeah, like I feel like a lot of those symptoms they definitely match me, or those instances of masking, they definitely match up to a lot of the things that I face. But again, I'm not a psychologist. Like these all could kind of amount to something. And I tried to find an ADHD quiz that I could take because that sounded fun. But I can't find any of them that are not like behind a paywall. And I didn't feel like paying $20 to find out if I have ADHD from an unqualified source. So unfortunately, we're not going to take the test today. But hey, okay, I'm just saying, like, and honestly, all of this stuff is pretty interesting because I also feel like a lot of these things I notice in the people that are around me, like people that I know on the day to day. And yeah, I feel like it's interesting. And it's also interesting to kind of, if I do end up getting diagnosed with ADHD, which like, I don't know if I need medication or therapy for it. Now, I did talk to somebody who has ADHD, like a woman, and she was like, honestly, I didn't think I needed medication either until I got medicated. And then I was like, oh wow, like life can be so much easier if I just had done this before. I really am not a medication kind of girl. I'm not the kind of person who wants to take, when I was in a really dark depression, I thought about getting antidepressants, but this is kind of like maybe trigger warning here. But growing up, we had this family who lived down the street from us, and they were really, really nice. And the mom, she helped us out when my dad got deported when I was really young. They let us stay with them and whatnot. And I never knew, but I guess she struggled a lot with depression, and they had moved out of our neighborhood a long, long time ago. And then a couple of years ago, the dad came up to our house and was like, hey guys. And we were like, oh my God, like, it's so good to see you. And this, that, and the other. And he told us that, her mom had passed away and then she'd gone through a depression and she got on antidepressants and it just seemed to make her worse. And unfortunately, worse came to worse and she wasn't here anymore. And, it was really, really sad. And I think that story has stuck with me a lot because she was somebody that was always really funny and fun and like the best hostess. Like anytime we went to her house, like dinner was like 3 courses, like all the things, every option, every sauce, topping, flavor that you wanted. Like she was so good at keeping us entertained, especially because there were so many of us kids who lived on that block and we would kind of like migrate to house. She was one of like my favorite houses to sort of go to because she was just so cool and she was such a fun time and a nice lady. And I thought she was so pretty. I remember she was like blonde with these like really bright blue eyes and like just hearing that, I think I might have been like 12 or 13 at the time when I found out about that. And that just kind of stuck with me because that was around the age where I was starting to have like really dark thoughts consistently. And I was like, man, like I don't think that I need to get on antidepressants. And then I've also heard that for other people, it does really, really good. So obviously it's a person to person case, but I never took any medication. And now, could it have helped me? Yes. But I was honestly more terrified of it not helping me and it making me worse. And where our health system is so fucked and it just wants to keep you sick and sick for longer. And it just cares about treatment and not actually helping you cure things. Not that like depression is curable. I don't think it is, in my opinion, at least not in my instance. But yeah, like, I don't know. I don't think that I will go to the doctor until like, let's say I've heard, obviously I did a lot of research. I heard that a lot of times it gets really noticeable and unbearable when you have a child. So maybe at that point, maybe before I decide to have a child or like when I'm thinking of having a child, I'll go to a doctor and, talk to them about my symptoms and how I feel about maybe if I have ADHD. So that way, when I do have a child, like I'm able to have that support already and that system already set up. But right now, honestly, I think it's just one of those things where my brain just works that way. And it doesn't feel debilitating all the time. Sometimes I feel really frustrated with myself. Honestly, like the biggest thing for me is that I have so many dreams and so many goals. And as like a Virgo who's just been trained my whole life to be good at everything that I do, I have so many interests and passions and things that I love. And I almost get overwhelmed all the time from how many ideas and how many things that I could do. And, what if I did this? And what if I did that? And I get frustrated because then I'm like, no, sit in one spot, do this, follow through, keep doing it, like stay consistent. And that's where I get the most frustrated with this idea of like, maybe I have ADHD, because that would make a lot of sense in those instances, because a lot of times, like I said, it just leads to me not doing anything. And that gets really, really frustrating at times, So I don't know. I hope that this was kind of informative for you guys. I don't know, maybe you guys are having these symptoms too and you relate to some of this stuff and you might be feeling like, hey, maybe I have that. Go get checked out if you have the means, which again, that is a privilege. But if you have the means to go get checked out psychologically by a doctor to find out if you have ADHD, then hey, go do it. That is a privilege that you have. You might as well take advantage of it because we also don't know how long we're going to be able to have those kinds of privileges. Do I think that I have ADHD? Maybe. That's kind of my final answer, is maybe. If I get diagnosed with ADHD in a couple of years, I won't be surprised. But if I don't have ADHD, I'm not going to be like, because like I don't really care. And also, one of the TED Talks that I watched, I wish that I remember what it was called, but it was like a TEDx, and it was this girl, and hearing her talk about how she's not really ashamed of having ADHD. It's not like this bad thing. It's kind of just the way that her brain works, and she thinks of it almost like a superpower, was really, really cool. And I like that mindset of being like, this is not something that's debilitating. This is not something that is always bad. It can sometimes be really good. And yeah, I don't know. So maybe ADHD is kind of a flex. Sound off in the comments if you have ADHD, honestly, and let me know how your journey of getting diagnosed and getting medicated, if that's what you decided to do, or what your treatment looks like. Sound off in the comments, the people with ADHD, and let me know how your life is, especially and specifically women with ADHD, because from my research, it looks so different in women than it does in men. So that's pretty much it for the ADHD. Moving on to my yuck and yum of this week. Okay. The yuck of this week, you guys, I'm kind of excited to talk shit about, because when I tell you this past month, okay, in May, we had book club, and for a book club, I try to compile a list of suggestions. And sometimes we just do them. Most of the time we just pick them as a group. But this time I kind of picked a slew of different suggestions in the genre that they wanted, that the popularity vote won over, which was dark romance. And I made like this presentation talking about the synopsis of each book, the trigger warnings, the ratings, where it's available, kind of just basic information of each book. And we voted on reading a book called Tasting Red. And honestly, this is going to be my last and final time talking shit about this on the internet, and including my May wrap up, which will be going up this week. But my gosh, I have never felt like I've lost that many brain cells in my entire life from reading a book. And I'm going to just tell you guys the preface, okay? And the synopsis of this book was that it was a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, that it was like a dark romance, that there was going to be, you know, like slow burn, that it was going to be like reluctant allies, that it was going to be good. The reviews were good on Goodreads. Boy, did they lie, okay? In the first 24 pages of this book, okay, we get Red, who is the female main character. She quite literally has red hair. And she is the daughter of Grandma, who is like this world-renowned, very much loved, wholesome witch woman, okay, who is her guardian, basically her mother. Her mother passed away in a car accident when she was very young. And she doesn't really know who her dad is, which I'm assuming ties into a part of the plot. And her grandmother makes these cookies that are embedded with magic, which allow humans, people without magical abilities, to have magical abilities after they eat these cookies. So she's like super famous, has a big company, whatever. And then we meet the MMC, which honestly right now, can't figure out his name, don't remember what his name is, don't really care, okay? But he's a werewolf, and he gets hired to delete Grandma. And he goes to her house, and while he's at her house, Red is coming into town to visit Grandma for some holiday or whatever. And mind you, Red doesn't have powers. She's a human. And the thing about Red, though, that we learn in the first 10 pages is that she has this thing where she quite literally, and I mean literally, goes into heat once a month, okay? She ovulates, but she ovulates, baby girl, like she ovulates, meaning any man who even slightly steps in her vicinity can get it. Yep, he can get it. And she walks into her grandma's house, can't find Grandma. She thinks Grandma's in the bathroom because she hears a noise in the bathroom. Guess what? Out of the bathroom, here comes our MMC. Don't know his name. We'll call him Wolfie. Wolfie comes out the bathroom, and Red is just not alerted. She's just like, oh, it's probably a security guard and blah, 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 blah. He plays it off, pretends like he's a security guard, and they jump each other. Their bones. In the first 24 pages. And then while they're in the middle of just apparently the best boning of their entire lives, a ice mage breaks into the house and tries to attack Red. And then mid-stroke, dude Wolfie just pulls right out, rock hard by the way, pulls right out, defeats this ice mage, and Red just dips. She just goes home. Just goes right back home, goes to work, is working at her shift, and then it just goes from there. And honest to God, I made it 62% of the way through this book. I hated every single second of it. The smut wasn't good. The scenes weren't good. The romance wasn't good. The plot wasn't good. And it is apparently a standalone in a series of interconnected standalones which follow different like little folklore. So I think there's like a Hansel and Gretel one. There's a what's the other one? I don't even know. A Goldilocks one, I think. And I really just I couldn't read it. And for book club, we went to go meet for our halfway point meeting, and 3 out of the 5 of us didn't even get to the point where we were supposed to stop in the book, which apparently was at 62%. And only one person from our book club actually liked it. So we ended up deciding to switch books. So now we're reading King of Envy, which is Anna Wang's new book in her like King of Whatever series. And I think it's like the Deadly Sins or whatever. I don't even know. I don't know. And I'm liking it much better, and everybody's enjoying it a lot more. And yeah, but honestly, like my yuck of this week is just that book. And honestly, my yuck is the fact that some books, especially nowadays in the dark romance category, should just be considered erotica. They should be like categorized in the same area of a bookstore as erotica. Point blank period. Okay? Because y'all are playing way too damn much. And I'm over it. Not that I have anything against people who enjoy erotica. It's just not for me. I need plot. I need something going on. I need a semblance of good romance. And I feel like even erotica, like good erotica, has good romance, has good plot with really, really heavy on the spice. And I can appreciate that. But I don't appreciate a book that is marketed to me as dark romance with zero romance, zero plot, and it's not even dark. It's not even dark. They just bone a lot. They're just extremely attracted to each other. I hated it. I gave it a 1 star. And I am counting it towards my reading goal because if I had to suffer, you have to suffer with me. Okay? Thanks. Now, my yum of this week. My new yum of this week, okay, is the Alani Nu cotton candy flavor. Honestly, I am being turned to the dark side of energy drinks, okay? Specifically Alani's. I won't drink a Celsius. It's gross. I've tried them. They're gross. Ghost is like mid. It kind of tastes like metal. But Alani Nu just has me in a chokehold, okay? And I'm a pink slush girl. If you know me, you know. I'm a pink slush fan. But I tried the cotton candy flavor the other day. Ooh, baby girl. That, so good. So, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 flavor. It's the new one that just came out, and it is so good. I'm not drinking one right now because I'm saving it for Friday as a little treat. But also it's like 6 p.m. I'm not having an energy drink right now. But when I tell you guys, that shit is good. Okay, good. So definitely go try it. If you guys have been thinking about trying it, go get it. Okay, because it is delicious in my opinion. So that's my yum of this week. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this rant about whether or not I have ADHD. Just know that I was having an existential crisis the other day about it. And I've since calmed down, but I thought it would be funny to talk about my crisis on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed, my talk about Osama bin Laden and being a patriot, because I think that it's convinced me that I should be, even though you would never catch me in a red hat. That's not a real patriot. So right now it's not really cool to be American, but hey, all I'm saying is if you're feeling like you have no faith in this country, watch the Manhunt docuseries on Netflix. It will change your mind. It will I have faith. I have a little bit of faith now. Okay. And then did I scroll on TikTok this morning and see more awful things happening in the world? Yes, I did. And it disappointed me again. But hey, I'm keeping my hopes high. All right. And yeah, that's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you like, comment down below if you have ADHD, what your journey with that is like, what you guys want me to talk about next week, and make sure you're subscribed. Turn on your notification bell so you get notified every single time I upload an episode on Mondays, every Monday, here at the Gabby Hour. I love you guys so much. Have a great day. Bye.